purposefully dislocated my shoulder to own a substitute. I was 16 and my creative writing teacher had to leave suddenly for an emergency. There was no one available to sub right away and she just up and left. So the school only had a few minutes to find a sub. They just put the Navy recruiter guy in. You know, the one guy that doesn't work for the school. Saved the armed guards. I don't recall how, but someone managed to piss this guy off immediately. So he looks at us, a class of frail 16-year-olds in what is essentially an elective poetry class, and tells us we all have to do some weird workout involving pulling all of your body weight up over the back of a chair. Now, let me stage myself here. I'm quite disabled, but back then it wasn't very visible. Just the week before I had fully dislocated my shoulder closing the trunk of my car. I couldn't even lift a Dasani bottle, let alone my own body weight. So I yell, "Oh, me first," and wait for zero approval before I ran up to the chair, put my weight on it, and immediately and visibly partially dislocated my shoulder. I did holler, "It hurt, man." But then I went, "Well, that was fun. What else are we doing today?" Quote, he just had us sit and do our upcoming project for the rest of the period, presumably out of fear my injuries would get him in trouble. I got major brownie points for getting us out of that exercise. It's my dominate arm and it didn't heal right, so it still dislocates. But honestly, it was worth it. Damn. And I thought wetting oneself to get bathroom breaks was hardcore. Do you think the second dislocation compromised the healing process? When we're young, it's so easy to take the health of our body for granted. But too often you can change the rest of your life in a few seconds with a simple injury. That's more badass than the kid in my class who could make himself vomit without sticking a finger in his throat. He could dry heave and turn it into vomit. He used it to get out of class earlier to miss a test the teachers used to watch him, but because there were no fingers involved, they couldn't prove it was deliberate. EDS is a bitch. Great for party tricks though. No high school antic is worth a lifelong injury that never healed properly. IMHO. I fell down the stairs once. I do that a lot, sadly, haha. When I got to the bottom, my left hand slammed into the wall and my thumb was dislocated. Now I am a complete klutz lol and have injured myself so many times I don't see the need to make a big fuss. Broke my leg in the woods and walked out a mile on it. So I sat on the steps and grumbled a bit, then went shopping, haha. A couple of days later it was really painful and my thumb was obviously out of place, so I grabbed it and yanked hard till it snapped back in place. Ah ha ha. It still crunches a bit 10 or so years on. Every time you dislocate a joint, it becomes easier. I've only fully dislocated my right shoulder once. At least only once, where it had to be forcibly set back in the socket. I've lost count of how many times I have had it pop out then back in. Sometimes it happens if I just lift my arm over my head the wrong way. A shame you couldn't have reset it by slamming it against a wall like a bad Lethal Weapon parody. That story could have ended a lot worse than it did. I was working at a school a few years ago where a group of 14 to 15-year-old boys snuck into an out-of-bounds area during lunch to play rugby league. Instead of playing touch, they were tackling each other. One of the boys had his hip dislocated when he was tackled, and one of his friends thought it would be a good idea to attempt to pop his femur back into the hip socket. Instead, it messed this kid's joint up even more, to the point where he had to be taken by ambulance to the hospital and have major reconstructive surgery. From memory, the kid was off school for a couple of months and spent the next 12 months getting around on crutches. He will ultimately need to have a hip replacement, but he has to wait until he is 25 to make sure he has completely stopped growing prior to the surgery. Well, keep it a secret if they ever wrap you in a straitjacket. Congratulations. I think you have one up at my story of answering an orthopedic doctor's question of what brings you in today, with dislocating my shoulder out on command. And here I was thinking I was crafty, pulling a tooth out once a week in 4th grade Spanish class. As someone who just got a bank cart repair after 2 years of constant dislocations, I both respect and fear you. It took me 3 hours to drive myself 2 miles to the ER after I tried to throw a piece of trash into my backseat and completely dislocated my shoulder. That shit hurted. Save the armed guard's pardon. Bruh, while I admire your spirit, you're kind of not that bright. Everyone's hung up on the armed guards, which is crazy to me. But why was a Navy recruiter just hanging out at your school? Is he there all the time? Why are some of these newer posts involved just straight up damaging your mental or physical health to make whoever told you to not do something feel bad? Not worth it. If you're gonna do anything, just piss in the garbage can or something. This type of flexibility runs in my family. It's such a pain and nuisance. My 16-year-old thinks it's funny to dislocate his shoulder and freak people out. After I had a shoulder reduction surgery, I would never recommend doing it on purpose. I'm sure by now you're probably a little more cautious because old joints hurt. What's the goal here? Armed guards? At a school? No offense intended, but in what third world country did you go to school?
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.